Welcome to In the Zone, your mental strength and endurance sports podcast presented by Maayke, sports psychologist.
Hi, hi.
And myself, Thierry, endurance sports coach. Maayke, today we are talking about a cycling assessment, so bike assessment.
Yes.
And you have been very kind enough to be the guinea pig for the podcast. So you're not only committed with your time, your effort, everything you give in the podcast, but you've also gone through the pain of going through a cycling assessment designed by me. So
yes, with pleasure. It was really cool.
So you're committed to the cause. So thank you.
Yeah.
First thing to talk about really on a cycling assessment is why do we need it? That's the first question we should we always come back to the why. So why do we need a cycling assessment? Well, I would say it's a reality check. It's to determine your current fitness, where you are right now. Okay, there's no right or wrong. It's just where you are. It will also determine your strengths and weaknesses, because we're not going to just do one test. We're going to do many tests, as you've already been tested, so you know it. So we're going to determine, your short power, long-term power, etc. And all that will be enabling me or a coach to determine your training zones. That's very, very important, because training zones are key for your development. And if you train in the wrong zones, you might be either underachieving, so you're not going to progress as fast, or you might be going too hard. That's why it's really important to do those tests to make sure that the zones are correct. Sometimes your event selection, what you decide to train for, your race, could be determined following a test or some results. So we might choose which type of racing you're going to do. So we're talking cycling here. So is it going to be more a hilly stage? Is it going to be more a sprint stage? Things like that. We're also going to be able to determine your power profile. So, and I'm going to show some images later, but it's basically what type of rider you are. And that's also going to determine your power curve. So that's a really important, it's like a model basically that goes from, really your high power there. Well, actually, if you're looking here, and then goes down so very high power for short duration to long-term power for longer events. And also a cycling assessment, a test, you can track progress over time. We've talked about, goals, SMART goals. To measure something, you need to test, so over time, that's one way to see progress.
Yes.
Is that something? So I guess you also have mental strength, mental assessments as well.
Those
can change over time.
We use sometimes questionnaires to understand what the mental skills are that people have. So yes, we do that, and then we measure it after a while again. But I think in my case, in my job, it's rather to open a dialogue about what is possible and how then really the in purpose of measuring. So definitely it's very satisfying to see an improvement, but it's not a goal in itself. So it's rather the experience. So if people really experience an improvement, that's I would say the overall objective of mental strength coaching, rather than really trying to improve a score on a questionnaire, for example.
Yeah. No, here it's true. It's a different type of test. So how did you feel? Were you curious about the test, anxious? Did you know what to expect or what to do? Or you saw the program and you're like, wow, this I've never done before and I wasn't expecting to do that?
No, I knew a little bit because I write quite a lot, well, not a lot, but quite a bit on Zwift. And I know there are FTP tests, and I was quite often tempted to do it, but I never actually did have the courage to just go for it, because it's still, it's certainly, I don't want to talk about anxiety because that's too strong. But there is some some anticipation about the effort, because I know I want to really push. So I know that it's going to hurt, and part of me loves that. A part of me creates, is stressed about that, and that's completely normal for me. So in the anticipation lies the joy, but also the stress. Yes.
Yeah.
And to go back to the why, because I think I asked myself, so why do I want this test? Not only to do you a favor, to be a guinea pig, but also to be confronted with reality, because well, due to COVID, due to the fact that like most of us, we don't have any specific objectives. I just wanted to know, where am I, despite the fact that I'm not in good shape. So I just wanted to feel confronted with where am I at this moment.
Yeah, and that's something which is really important, because a lot of people are actually afraid of doing the tests because they're afraid of perhaps failing to progress, or maybe they took time off and they don't want to, they're a bit scared that they have regressed. So it's difficult, but I would really encourage people to test, not too often, but I would say every 4 to 6 weeks you should be able to do some sort of test. So you just track your progress over time, and again, you get better at doing those tests because you get to know yourself better.
Yes.
So the more you know yourself, the more you'll be able to do those tests. So for some athletes, I don't test at all, because we race on Zwift, and depending on what we do, there's no need to test, because the data is already out there. I have the data. You see what I mean? So for some I will do it, and for some the test that we've done, some I will prescribe, and for some it's just not, depending as well on what their goal is. Why test the 10-second power on an Ironman athlete? It's not really relevant, you see. So today we went through the kind of classic full cycling assessment. So what have we done? We've done a RAM test.
Yes.
We've done a 5-second or 5 to 10-second sprint. We've done a 1 minute all-out test. These are all-out efforts, by the way. A 5-minute all-out effort, a 20-minute all-out effort, and one we haven't done but I've added to the list is one I like to do as well, is a 30-minute zone 2 test, and I'll explain that a little bit later. So RAM test. What is a RAM test? Well, RAM test is basically a graded exercise. So it takes you from a very easy wattage, normally it starts about 100 watts, and every minute it increases by 20 watts. You could do graded exercises on treadmills for running as well, but here it's the cycling, so it's on a machine. You can do it outside as well, but it's very easy to do it on Zwift or with it on erg mode. It gets surprisingly difficult. I mean, it's easy for a long time, and all of a sudden it gets pretty challenging until you can't pedal anymore, basically. So it's until failure. It's a very difficult one. And what we do is we take the best average 1 minute power. So it's a rolling average that you always go through. And until you can't pedal anymore, we take that 1 minute. And usually it's about 7. I think Zwift uses 76% of that best 1 minute average power. So why do we do a RAM test? Why the RAM test? Well, it's actually, like I said, it's convenient because it's short. It doesn't last long. I think your test took maybe 15 minutes, including the warm-up. So it's done very quickly. As I said, it's short. It's repeatable, because you could do it once a week if you want, but I mean, you shouldn't really do it once a week, but you could. It's actually quite a good workout. But the fact that I think it's mentally as well not that challenging to approach as a test, because the repeatability is quite important. It's actually quite a good workout. So how did you find it? How did you find the experience of the RAM test?
Yeah, I find it, well, I'm not going to say I find it easy, but the pain is very short.
Yeah.
So it's the anticipation is also not that, it's not that you're really anticipating a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. It's just only a few, I don't remember, but
yeah, it's like 3 minutes, which are really
exactly.
tough.
It's really tough. So
Maybe
in the beginning,
3,
it's
4.
really, really simple, and then all of a sudden it starts to be tougher, and then just you fall off your bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So,
and it's really important. I always on Zwift you do have in instructions when you pedal, and it's really important. Well, first it's to do it seated. That's quite important.
yes.
But also you really want to push until the very, very last second. Like I said, it's an average best 1 minute power. And although sometimes you go above an interval, say you've passed 250 or 260 or 280, some people tend to stop there. Whereas if you carry on a little bit, you might have gone further, you know. So it's really, you have to pedal really until you cannot anymore.
Yes.
So that's the super important thing to say.
Yes.
And that was the case for you. You basically, what was your result? So you managed a best 1 minute of 300 watts. So you've passed the 300 watt barrier, but then you stopped like right there, right at that 1 minute.
Okay.
So you felt typically in that range where I'm sure you could have gone for another 5, 10, 15 seconds.
Yes.
But you know,
yes,
so what happened there?
Well, I think because there you have those intervals, or what is it? Those steps.
Yeah,
steps, and so this step has a huge impact on your mental, your mental game, because you know, if that, it's like if this step is over, I've really done well. I'm already dying, or I'm not dying, but I'm already tempted to fall off my bike. So just let me just keep this step, and then I'm allowed to fall off my bike.
Yeah.
Whereas I would say if I would not see those steps, I think I could have gone maybe 5 seconds further. I mean, how difficult can it be? I'm sure I can.
Well, the 20 watt increases it sounds easy, but it's not.
But then exactly,
it's quite a bit. You know, from 300 to 320.
Exactly.
There's quite a different level, and also you've done all the steps before. So
yes. So the point is that it's a psychological barrier you put yourself, because this is a step which is in your face, because you see it on the screen, and then on top of that, you know that there will be like 20 more added. Which is like okay, giving.
But no, so it's good. So 300 watts. Basically, what does it mean? Well,
I don't know.
Like I said, the typical formula is 76%. So 76% on Zwift, that means you have an FTP of 228 watts. Okay. Which is really good, because so you know, you're kind enough to reveal your weight to the world. So it's based on your weight, that means you have a 4.07 watts per kilo, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
So for women, I can put, you know, some on the show notes, like charts of where you stand, because that's, you can compare yourself to basically world-class athletes, and that's like you're a top Cat 2, if not like a low Cat 1 rider. So you'll have, you know, pro riders, semi-pro, Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3, Cat 4, basically, and then you know, novice, beginners, you know. But so yeah, this is really high. This is really good.
Okay.
Very, very good.
Oh, that sounds promising.
So now that you know the result, where you stand, how do you feel?
I feel okay. I think it's not a surprise, because I know I can score well on those tests. We haven't got to the next tests because there I'm much weaker. No, yeah, it's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it's good.
I mean, there are 2 categories above, so I need to.
Yeah, but okay, you're working, you know, and it's also, you know, it's not your full-time job being a cyclist. So basically, but
I'm out of shape. So
yeah, as well. So and I must say, there's a few drawbacks from the RAM test. So although it's repeatable, it's easy, it's short. The formula, it's a formula, you know. So it's 76%. It's very generic. So you might fall right on the 76%, but for some it will be 74, for some it will be 78, for some it will be 80, some it will be 70. You see, so you know, it's a curve and it's a bell curve, and where are you on the bell curve? You know, basically. So it has to be it's an estimation.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the first thing. It does also favor some types of athletes already, because obviously some people, like especially, let's say Ironman athletes, if you wanted to do really long distance, you're never going to go and train, well, not never, but you're rarely going to train those really, really high wattages. So in a test like this, where you have to go really high, you tend to, it will favor cyclists over triathletes.
Yeah.
So that's why quite often the RAM test is used by cyclists, but the other tests that we did later are more done by triathletes. So, and personally, I find that the RAM test can be a bit flattering. So
yeah,
it's for me, it's a little bit overestimating the real FTP, but sometimes not by much, but it can be very accurate sometimes. But generally, I find it a little bit flattering. So
okay, well, that's good.
228. That's So now we got the first number.
Yes.
We got our first number. Your FTP is 228.
All right.
Test number 2. So we did that a few days later. We spread the it's not just one day after the next. Otherwise, that's a little bit mean. But yes. We tested the 1 minute and the 10 seconds sprints. So 5 to 10 second. 5 to 10 second, we're looking at your neuromuscular power. It's basically your pure sprint. There's no oxygen involved in the sort of energy pathway that we're using. It's just pure neurological. It's just that's it. It's just raw power, all out, 5 seconds. That's important to know if you're going to do sprinting events, right? So your result was 440 watts. So your best 5 seconds was 440 watts. That means 7.85 watts per kilo, which we're going to go, something clearly went wrong on this test, or something wasn't, because that's kind of really novice, so that it's actually good. It's good that we had a little error in a way, because it could be the problem with the trainer. It's maybe an old version or something. And it's true that it's always very difficult to assess the 5 to 10 second power indoors, and that's probably something that we could do more outside with a real power meter.
Yeah.
But well, we know, I think as well, that maybe your sprinting is not
your favorite. never been very powerful.
But clearly, I think here you could have gone much, considering what you've done, and the other you could have gone much harder.
Yeah. Okay.
In the same workout, so the RAM test was one workout, by the way. Now we're on workout number 2. And in that workout number 2, test number 2, we test the 5 seconds, which we just talked about, and now the 1 minute. 1 minute, we're looking at your anaerobic capacity. So it's again anaerobic, aerobic. It's kind of meet in the middle, the 1 minute test, because you are above 1 minute. At 1 minute, you're using as well oxygen, of course. But you're using a lot of anaerobic effort in that. So your result was pretty good. It was 338 watts for 1 minute. Okay. Which means about 6 watts per kilo. And there you fall in the category 4. Remember?
Okay. Yeah.
So more of a novice type of rider. So again, perhaps there could have gone a bit harder. Probably, maybe doing it outside again could have been, but clearly something that we already see. The tests are starting to show some weaknesses.
Yes, definitely. Clearly. That's good. How would you do this outside? Would you?
On a short climb, for example.
Okay, so you are allowed to climb, because otherwise, if you do it on a flat road.
So on the 1 minute, you could do it seated, but generally you maybe start seated and then you just finish, standing. It's just really that 1 minute tends to be a mix of both, and you'll have a lot of standing efforts as well. So you find a short climb and just go all out.
Okay.
That's probably easier, because if you do it on the flat, you're gonna run out of gears probably. And you're going to be spinning super high. So it's probably easier to start with a climb and just go all out. The sprint, I would do the sprint more on a flat and basically there you can really go all out, you know, but because it's only 5-10 seconds, but and it's really, you know, the watts will go shoot off really quickly. But on the 1 minute, you need to find, because at some point you're going to gain so much speed that, you know, you're going to spin out and you have to change gears, and that's going to, you know, reduce your best effort. So finding a small climb, it's a good question. Yeah, finding a small climb is same. 5-10 seconds can also be done on a small climb. It's really doesn't matter. You know, but yeah, that's what I would recommend. So that was done. Test number 2, and test number 3. A few days later, I think we had a week to do about all the tests from the test 1 to test number 3. Test 3 is the one I use the most for the people I coach with the RAM test. So test number 3 was to test the 5-minute and 20-minute all-out efforts. And with the 5-minute test, we're looking for your VO2 max. Okay, so the VO2 max, you know, that's also a point of comparison between different athletes. What's your VO2 compared to others? But it's a great measure because you're really at the top of your aerobic capacity. Okay, so it's how much volume of oxygen you're going to be able to go through. Okay, and then you compare it with with your body weight. Then you can compare to others. But on your 5-minute test, you've done really well. So that's you went 243 watts. Okay, which means 4.34 watts per kilo, and that puts you into the a low Cat 2 rider. Okay, so. But remember, Cat 1, Cat 2, this is good, huh? This is really good standard. So we should, you know, maybe it's maybe more valuable for people in the US because we don't really have categories like this. But it's kind of the fourth. Cat 2 would be the 4th division if you want of riders, if you want. So it's really good, really good.
Okay.
And with a VO2 of 61, so that's high. If we consider female generally have between 25-30 untrained, so you know that's very high. And male, it's about 35-40 untrained. Well, regular like sedentary people. But you know, top female athletes can go in the mid 70s or high 70s and high 80s for the mid 80s for the men. But you know, 61 VO2 is already a very high. Is that something you've had before? You looked at before? Garmin watch perhaps or something?
Yes, I've had that before. I have done run tests and cycling tests before to prepare myself for a ski race. And so it was
similar results.
I don't remember the data at all, but the conclusion overall was the same. Yeah.
No, so that's so we start to see after all these tests like an increase in of course in performance, because we're getting towards your strength.
Yes.
And so the final test, so it's done in the same workout. It's the 20-minute all-out test. And the reason why we do the 20-minute is there to determine your FTP. Okay. So your FTP, functional threshold power, is the power that you're able to sustain for 1 hour. Okay. You know, 1 hour, it is not at 1 hour and 1 second you don't die. You know what I mean? No. It's like again, it's an estimation, rough estimation, but it's just generally to show that hour power, and that's how we determine all the training zones.
Yes.
So when you do the 20-minute test, the standard formula formula. So we have to have that bell curve. You know that you'll have outliers, people on the right and on the left of the bell curve. But you take normally 95% of your all-out 20-minute power. Okay, so you average, the drum rolls, 229 watts for the 20 minutes, which means your FTP, according to the test, is 218 watts, which is 3.89 watts per kilo. We can already see that there's a difference between this result and the RAM test result.
Yes.
So if I look back at the RAM test, your FTP was 228 4.07 watts per kilo.
Mhm.
And now the test is 218.
Yes.
So there's 10 watts lower.
Difference. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like a lot, but it's still 10 watts. So we're
Yes.
already pretty close, huh? So
Mhm.
it's but obviously because you're very light, you all of a sudden go to 3.89 watts per kilo.
Mhm.
So obviously, for me, 10 watts difference will have barely any difference, because I weigh like 25 kilos more.
Yes.
But oh no, 20 actually. Less than 20. But anyway, it's not about me, it's about you. You're sort of like a top cat 2 rider for this sort of where I remember we were like before we were talking about top rider, yes, but even a low cat 1 rider.
Yes.
So
I see. Yeah.
The FTP test, but the FTP test for me is a much more accurate because you have first the 5 minutes. So you doing that 20-minute test with tired legs.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So the effort is much more realistic.
Yes.
So I think that 10 watts we're closer to reality.
Very fair. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So and then if we dig a little bit into your test, because but how did you feel, by the way, this whole
it was
thing,
okay.
the 5 minutes?
I mean, the 5 minutes, I think I started too fast, so I was a bit impatient
on the 5 minute as well.
Yeah. So because it's all out, so that's fine for me. I can put let's say a mental frame on around that, but so 5 minutes of suffering, I mean, it's all relative, so that's okay. But I feel that I wasn't fully warmed up. I just but I know that, but it's sometimes also impatience, and I don't take enough time for it. I should have planned more time.
And this is actually shown as well very clearly in your 20-minute test, because when you did the 20-minute test, if I break it down, that's quite funny because I always break it down in 5 minutes. Okay, 4 times 5 minutes.
Yes.
And your first 5 minutes, you had 244 watts. So you improved your 5-minute test from before by 1 watt.
Yeah.
But clearly
not
that's
logic.
Wrong pacing.
Yes.
But it also shows that your 5-minute test, you could have gone harder, because if you're able to do that same number a few minutes later, that's you did not.
No,
it wasn't. You could have done better on the 5-minute test.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I remember that but that we'll discuss later. But it's very important to plan it. So to have a strategy, to know what is coming, and to have, like I said, I put a mental frame around it. I know 5 minutes of suffering, that's fine, but that's not enough. You need to know at one point, how does the route look like? Because I remember that I was in the wrong part of Zwift. So I started to get super irritated.
Yeah, and you did 2 workouts.
I did 2 workouts. It's like, okay.
But so okay, your first 5 minutes, you went out really strong.
Yes.
And then if you look at the second 5 minute, that was 228 watts. And then you dropped the third 5 minutes to 214 watts. You see there's like a big drop.
Yeah.
You're losing 10%.
Yes.
If not more, 15% from the first to the third. And then on the fourth 5 minute, you just went back up to 229. So you had a bit more to push, which basically gives you the average of 228 or 229 for the 20 minutes.
Yes.
But if you had gone crescendo,
of course.
I think if you paced it better, you could have gone a little bit harder. Yes. So, but overall, good experience.
Yeah. Very much. Very good. Yeah.
I think you learn a lot about yourself, about how to pace, and definitely, like you said, about planning. You should have some sort of estimation or idea of you had it already. You had your FTP, so you knew it was 228. So if you knew now, you know that 95% of your FTP. If you take 95% of your 20 minutes to get your FTP. You could have done, 229 times, 1.05, and that gives you your target to get that FTP.
Yes.
So you could have said, okay, I'm going to target that. And what I recommend people sometimes is just to start below and then gradually increase the
Of
power.
course.
And the last 5 minutes you go hard, and the last
Yes.
like 2 minute, 1 minute you just go nuts.
Of course, yeah.
You know, and give absolutely everything.
Yes.
So you really have to pace that so first I say, okay, go at 5 minutes, what you think you can hold, then reassess. Can you still hold that for another 5 minutes? And then can you increase? Do you have to decrease? But you try always to increase, of course.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But yeah,
No,
that's preparation.
Yes. I didn't prepare well.
Well, there you go. So yeah, and you see, we can see where the weaknesses and the strengths are. Yes, not just exactly. In cycling, but like you said, in preparation.
Yes.
You know, but there's also going to be many other factors, like how was your day? Are you tired? Are you mentally fresh? You know, I wouldn't recommend to do a test like this if you're stressed and having a hard day. You know, so you got to be pretty fresh.
Yes.
Yeah, so now we have all the results, and as I mentioned, there's other tests that you can do. And when we talk about 20-minute test giving you your FTP, like I said, is over an hour. So why not do 1 hour test?
Yeah.
But you know, honestly, that it would be pretty cruel and very brutal to say to someone, okay, now you're going to do 1 hour all out. Wow, it's difficult, you know. So some people do it, but it's you know, that would be mentally, I think, very, very challenging. And I think you've seen through the tests, the how would you rate the mental challenge from, let's say, maybe that's a funny thing actually, out of 10, let's say, how was mentally challenging the RAM test, then the 10 second and 1 minute, and then the 5 minute and 20 minute?
I think the most challenging was the last part, because it's 20 minutes. So, and it's, you know, it's a little bit longer. Yeah. The other things are really, really, I mean, for me, it's fine. I like to suffer. I really like it. I'm also mentally, I would say, I set myself up for it. But the 20 minutes is just a little bit too long.
Yeah.
So the anticipation, I always talk about anticipation. It's the anticipation to the suffering, which makes it really hard. And if you know that's 20 minutes, that's, you know, that's tough. But I would say I cut it up in pieces of 5 minutes, and then it's okay again.
Yeah, but and what about the other test then? The 10 second and 1 minute?
That's okay. The only thing is difficult for my trainer, that depends, I think, that it only shows the wattage after a few seconds. So I go all out, and then it takes ages before it reaches its, let's say, my highest point. And then, you know, I have to still keep it for 10 seconds. That's difficult.
Yeah. No, it's true. So if we say out of 10, okay, we'll take a short break. It's fine. We'll take a little music break.
Yeah.
And we are back.
Yes.
You have a new laptop?
Yeah.
Good. Right. So where were we? 10 seconds, 1 minute test. That was easier.
Yes, that was easier. But still, I mean, of course, the 10 seconds is really, it's rude.
Yeah.
So, but it's also, you know, there is some mental reflection or fight about, okay, just keep it 2 more seconds, because then for sure it's 10 seconds. So it's just like you're also playing with it, because I don't want to stop exactly at 10 seconds, because then I tell myself, but maybe it doesn't count like 10 seconds. So you have to go.
Well, I should have told you, but actually I do 10 seconds because I'm actually measuring the 5 seconds. So it's
you see?
Yeah. Because again, 5 seconds, you know, that's really your raw power.
Yeah,
when you start to go 10 seconds even, but it's good to have that 10 second, but it's generally the 5 seconds. We're not going to see a huge drop off, but And the RAM test is, I would say, so personally, I would say that the RAM test is the one where I don't think it's that mentally challenging for me to do. Then I would say the 10-second and 1 minute, I think is a bit more challenging because you're really going through quite a lot of pain, although it's very short. So maybe these two are actually quite equal.
Yes.
And then for sure, the 5-minute and 20-minute test, that's like super tough.
Yeah.
So if you go then the 60-minute, you're talking next level stuff, in terms of mental toughness. So that's why, yes, it would be extremely valuable to get the info, but honestly, like, I would not have many clients if I had to give them, if I made them go through that once a month. But actually there's alternatives. So instead of doing a 60-minute time trial, you can do a big climb. So you could do, we have the Barriette here, 12K climb. It's going to take you, a lot of people, it's going to take roughly around an hour. So that's a really good test. So if you have a climb near you where you live, which is about 45 minutes to an hour, that's a great way to test it.
Yeah.
And even if it's shorter, let's say 45 minutes, it's not going to be far off, so I think it's, you're talking maybe 1 or 2%, but not much more difference. So that's what I would say. But the thing is, there are different FTP. Oh, another complication. So you have indoor FTP, you have outdoor FTP, and you can have like climbing FTP. You see that these are even different things, because inside, you're fixed on your bike. So also, there's something to be careful about, is that the watts that you have from your trainer might be different from the watts you have on the pedals.
Yes.
Right? And there's quite often a good 10% difference. So if you go at if your trainer is overestimating your wattage and you go outside and you try to hold the same thing, you're going to be tired very quickly. So you need to know and assess those as well, and know the difference. And when you're outside, there's, when you climb, it's also different than when you're, seated or in an aero position for a triathlete. So these are different tests you can do. So again, you're talking about, there's many different. So are you going to do an FTP test inside, a climbing one and a flat one? Probably not. But it's just so people are aware that depending on the terrain and obviously where you train as well, altitude will play a huge difference.
Sure. Yeah.
If you're at sea level, or if you live at in Peru, or whatever, 2,000-meter altitude, that's hugely different. So there's many different things. But let's talk, all things being equal, you're gonna have, like we said with your test, there was about 10 watts difference. I wouldn't expect something too different if you did it outside on the climb.
Okay.
So then there's another test. We haven't done that test. It'd be funny to do it as well. I don't do so often because, but most of the people I coach will either do an Ironman or a very long distance event. And actually, so something we should have done with you is to basically test how aerobically fit you are. And you can do 30-minute or 1 hour basically at your upper zone 2. So now that we have your FTP, we're going to take 75% of that number, and then you're going to ride for
sweet spot.
No, 75 is really zone 2. Sweet spot is around 90%.
Okay.
So you're going to ride at 30 minutes or 1 hour at this zone 2, and I'm going to check how your heart rate is doing versus that. So because it's supposed to be an easy effort, okay? If your heart rate starts drifting quite a lot, then we can see that there's a bit of a problem, because you're all of a sudden your body is demanding a lot from your body, where actually 75% you should be able to go at that pace for many hours. You see, so this is something else that we can say. And I think something for you straight away after you've done the test, you were like, oh, but as soon as it goes above like an hour or 2 hours, I'm dead, and I've got really strong power. And this sort of test will be able to assess how aerobically fit you are. Because clearly you have the engine. It's proven. It's on paper.
Yes.
But now on the road, above the 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, that's where the real deal is coming.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's other tests we can do, but then it's just training and basically longer hours.
Yes.
But, so when we look at the profile now, so we've talked about why cycling was important. We've talked cycling assessment was important. We've also showed you how we do it. Now, what do we do with these results? What are we going to do? Well, first, it gives us, like we said, that reality check. That's where we are now. And like I said, you can now maybe decide what type of event you want to do. And clearly, with your profile, we've seen that your 1 minute, sorry, your 10-second sprint is kind of there. Then you're kind of relative to others. Then your 1 minute is kind of here, and then your 5 minute is there, and then your 20 minute is there. So you have very strong. So you can see that you're more suited for long endurance events. Okay. So if you wanted to do an étape du tour or an Ironman, something like that, that would really suit you. If now you say, I would like to train for a Zwift race, well, you're going to struggle at first because it's all about that 1 minute power on Zwift a lot of the time. So, and there's a lot of sprints, a lot of variability in those. So now you can sort of see what sort of rider you are, more of a time trialist in a way, because you can go at the same speed for a very, very long time. Now, if you're in a peloton and there's a lot of breaks where you're going to have to catch and sprint, there you're going to struggle. Same on rolling hills. So if you had to do, like, say, a Tour du Lac, you'd be okay, no problem. But if you start adding many hills, like many rolling hills in between, or if there's breaks in peloton, every time you have to make that effort of like that 30-second or 1 minute effort to have that produce that high power, it's going to cost you a lot compared to others, basically. So that's where we see your profile as a cyclist. And clearly your 5 minute and 20 minute are strengths, and your sprints and 1 minute is a limiter. 100%.
How much of that is due to the fact that I don't train? So,
well, there's a lot of, that's a physiological kind of trait that you have. This is who you are as a rider right now. Doesn't mean that it's going to be there forever. But, there's also some people have the fast twitch or slow twitch. There's a different percentages of, clearly for you, you're more of a slow twitch type of athlete, and it's going to require quite a lot of time if you want to go into a fast twitch, so very fast sprinting athlete, and you might never even get to the same level. So if you remember, you're kind of a cat 1 20 minute, to get to cat 1 at 10 seconds, I mean, this is like crazy. That's going to take so much, and I'm not saying, and also one thing important, you can't be good at everything. I think that was something you said. I want to be excellent at everything.
Is that
and
possible?
I remember that comment now. And I said, really, that's not
unlikely.
I mean, So you have all rounders, but it's, there's generally going to be an area where you have a bit of weakness and an area where you have a bit more strength. That's just the way it is.
That's clear.
And so, so this is, now we have the data. What does it mean? What are your goals? We need to assess, what are your goals? If you had to sign up for a race, which type of race would you want to do? And we're going to look at, let's say, imagine you want to do let's say we want to do an étape du tour, okay? And great. Or let's say we go do triathlon. Actually, let's do triathlon. You want to do an Ironman. That's perfect. You choose, depending on which Ironman. You have some Ironmans which are a bit more rolling hills. I wouldn't do that one for you. I would choose one Ironman for you, which would be quite flat, because basically that's your strength. That's, you can do, or even a hilly one, quite a hilly one like Nice or something, because you have good strength, so you can go up. But as soon as you have those 1 minute bursts that you have to do a little bit, although you don't really want them in Ironman, but as soon as you have a little bit, that's going to cost you more. So depending on your profile, we're going to be able to train basically your weaknesses, but then you want to raise your strengths.
Yes.
Okay. That's really the key message here.
Okay.
So if
I'll
you had to
think
choose
about it.
a race, what would it be, let's say? If you
I
wanted
don't
to
know. I don't know. I don't know. I've always done like endurance efforts. I mean, I come from a complete different world, which is climbing. And there, you know, the efforts were really, really long at a very, let's say, moderate pace. So, I mean, in my mind, I'm still used to having efforts of longer than, let's say, 2 days in a row, nonstop. But I would say, if possible ever, then yeah, of course, an Ironman would be great, but not for now in my life.
But you see, but also this could, but let's say an Ironman, for example, is a good example because you are not going to win on the bike.
No.
Okay.
Well,
but
I don't know.
Well, yeah, yes and no. You know, you still have a marathon to run, so it's all about management. But let's put it this way: let's say that you are doing a cycling race, just cycling. It's a mountain stage, and you are in, let's say, the final top 10. Okay, the final sprint. The final climb. It's a long climb, and imagine it's the Barriette. Okay, there's 10 of you.
Yeah.
And you look around you, and you kind of try to assess the competition. Okay. Knowing your strengths and weaknesses. Your strength is going hard for a long time.
Okay.
Weakness is your sprint. If you want to win, don't leave it until the last 100 meters because you have no sprint.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to play your card, you're going to have to break away with at least 5 or 10 minutes before you get to the top.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but that's your strength. Your 5 minute is a strength, and your 20 minute even more. So I'm not saying you have to attack and go all out, but you have to tire the other ones out because that's where your strength is. And you're going to hope and pray that these guys are not hanging onto your wheel. And all it matters is that you stay that extra effort a bit longer. And sometimes you have people as well that mentally break because they can't keep up. And all you had to do, and then once they're gone, you can actually slow down.
Yeah.
Because mentally they think that you're off the chart and you've gone. But what I'm talking about here is that if you had 1 kilometer to go, and you know that your weakness is a sprint, don't leave it for the sprint.
No.
But that's how you can as well use your cycling profile and knowledge about yourself to get a better result.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you see sometimes, you see the people like in a marathon or in a race, they'll sprint the last 100 meters. It makes virtually no difference. You're going to gain 10 seconds in your time. Yeah. Whereas if your strength is to do a bit faster, you have to spread that effort across a longer time.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So so it's just that's just a concrete example on how you could use that knowledge of this assessment. Because if you had only done the RAM test, how do we know you're a sprinter or not? You don't know that. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. So now we clearly know you're not. So perhaps it's something we could train, because you might be in a situation where you'll have other girls which have similar level than you, but their sprint is better. So if you can't break them until the last minute, well, if it happens many times, you're going to be frustrated, and that's what you need to work on is your sprint. So that's how you can practical examples on how to use your weaknesses and your strength to suit your training and suit the terrain.
Yeah. Okay.
So, so that's
I will give it a thought. It depends on what kind of races there will be again.
Yeah.
How much time I have to train, because for now it's just sustaining a little bit the fitness.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Which is fine.
But for the sake of this podcast, we're kind of doing an imaginary race that you're gonna do,
cool.
And it's good to know now. What your weaknesses are. What your strengths are.
Yes.
And when you want to go back into it, and when there's going to be a race, what to train.
How to choose. Yeah. Yes.
And also how to train, because you've seen that your intervals management, let's say, was not the best. No. So that's going to be something to work on. And you might find that this is the case when you go up a climb.
Yeah.
You start maybe the first 1 or 2 kilometers way too strong.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
all of a sudden it fades a little bit, you know. So it's very typical. Huh? It's not. Yeah. That's these are many things, and just aim to go all out. So quite often I'll tell people always finish strong, you know. So when you do a climb, maybe the last kilometer or the last 2 minutes, then go at VO2. Aim for like sweet spot. Normally it's for a climb. Maybe the last kilometer, go for FTP, and then right at the end, VO2 or all out. You know, always try to finish strong, never the other way around.
No.
That's like as well muscle memory. You know, you got to train your body to always finish strong. So that's very important.
Okay.
Yeah. So
cool.
How did you find the experience overall?
Yeah, nice. I like it.
Yeah?
I like it very much. Yeah, I like to test. I like to push. No, it's my favorite.
So now we know that you're going to do endurance.
I know where I am.
Yeah. And how much have you trained since?
Well, I start.
You've been busy. You've been very busy.
Exactly.
You've got
but
a good
I'm
excuse.
I'm fine. As long as there's no race or no.
Yeah.
You know, I try to sustain my fitness, and I'm happy with that now.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's the same. We all have to have, but still, I think even though you have no races, to do these tests and do them sort of regularly, that could be a goal in itself.
Yes.
You know, to say, okay, we've done your 1 minute test and it was this number, and you say, I want to be 10% higher.
Exactly.
So I want to be, and just focus on that. And you gave yourself a 4 weeks block to just train on your 1 minute.
Exactly. Yeah.
See where you are.
Yeah.
And then assess again.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do the whole tests again, you know, because your FTP is not going to change by huge amounts, you know. But if you really focus on your 1 minute, that will have a big difference. You see. So these are small kind of goals that you can have, and have some motivation around that. Because it's true. Otherwise, these days we've talked already about motivation and how difficult it is. And this would be a way to motivate yourself, challenge yourself. And again, it's a time where it's a great time to train the weaknesses.
Yes. Yeah.
So if for you, take that time to enjoy, but do some sprints, like have some really hard intervals, short intervals, because the endurance, we've seen how good you are. You're going to have it forever. You know, that's going to be your strength forever.
Yeah.
But you can use this time to maybe do shorter workouts because you might not have the time, but then use it wisely and do those intervals really hard.
Okay. You give me some training.
Yeah. Famous last words.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, makes sense, doesn't it?
All right. Well, Maayke, thank you so much for being our guinea pig.
Thank you. You were a great coach.
Yeah. And all right. Thank you very much. And we're going to put a little bit of music and we'll be back for our any other business.
All right. Good. So any other business? Thierry, you want to start? Or?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think I've talked the most actually this episode for once.
All right, go ahead.
It's soon the holidays, Easter holidays. So I've got a kids camp coming up. It's full. I'm really happy.
Oh, wow.
So I've got 20 kids. We're going to be in the Jean-Jean. It's going to be really good fun. I'm really hoping for the weather to be kind so we can be outdoors most of the time. So cool. Looking forward to that.
Yes.
We have as well the Zwift Racing League starting again on the 6th of April. That's going to be really cool. I'm hoping to have a third team, which you might participate. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be a ton of fun. I've just finished as well the Duathlon League on Zwift. So yeah, it's been good. I've been busy and just racing, you know. So it's I've been lucky. I've been able to race, you know, where a lot of people haven't. So I've had my little Zwift racing. Yeah, exactly. My fix of. And something, I don't know if I told you or not, but I've been going cold water swimming. I've been going to
yes,
the lake.
yes.
So
Wow.
my
Nice.
my wife offered me a workshop, like a place at the workshop of the Wim Hof method.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was one day in Les Uns, and it was brilliant. I absolutely loved it.
Cool.
And so I've committed to the technique, the method, just to give it a try and see what it's like. Because obviously you got to try, and you got to do it for like a few months to really see the benefits. And yeah, I've been really enjoying that, actually. It's
cool.
the breathing is quite difficult, I find.
Yes.
It's you to get into that rhythm.
Uh-huh.
But there's a lot of really cool exercises that you can do. There's an app which is really useful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of, I guess, yoga techniques and breathing exercises. But the exercises you do a lot with balance, and it's really challenging at first. But it's my challenge basically, is to be able to do these exercises quite well. And
cool.
And the lake, I was there this morning, and I stayed 15 minutes in
Whoa!
the lake.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, it's amazing. The water's about 5 degrees.
Yes.
I think still. But it was a beautiful morning, sunshine. And yeah, it's funny because, a month ago, I could stay not even a minute.
No, of course. Yeah.
And, with just your mind, how you can sort of calm everything down, and you go in, stay 15 minutes, and I wasn't even cold.
Well done.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it feels great.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I'm enjoying that. That's
cool.
That's me for the next few weeks.
Okay.
And what about yourself?
Well, I'm crazy busy. So, which is very positive, but also sometimes a lot. So I'm enjoying what I'm doing, but I'm also looking forward to a few days off during the holidays. And I'm going to enjoy the weather, I hope, because the weather is really nice at the moment. So I hope it stays like that. And I'm actually flirting with, starting up the season again. I saw some triathlon ads passing by of the email by Latour. So I was like, oh, Geneva, yes, exactly. So yeah, let's see.
Yeah, I hope.
But I'm crazy busy, which is super positive. But I also have to be realistic and training full flash for a triathlon, because it takes so much time. I mean, we cannot do it. I don't think, unless you do a shorter one, it's okay-ish. But as soon as you start to do the longer ones, you have to train several times per week. And you have to have not only the time, but also the mental, the energy to do it, and not to be too stressed or too, bothered by everything that's the other things that are going on in your life. Even if it's positive, if your head is full, then it's not always easy to focus on training.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So let's see.
Cool. All right.
Looking forward to holiday.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. So for mental strength coaching, Maayke is there for you at You Thrive. For any endurance sports coaching, Thierry, I'm here at Jura Sports. And I hope to see you soon. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Take care. Bye.